I open a podcast app and my brain goes slightly blank. Hundreds of covers, loud colors, serious faces, cartoon microphones, every square promising importance, nothing explaining where to begin. It's not a lack of content. It's too much at once, without a map. That feeling sharpened last week when my grandson listed podcasts he thought I'd like. Rapid titles, real enthusiasm. I nodded, recognized 2 names, smiled politely while my mind ran logistics. News or comedy? Interviews, how long are these? When would I listen? That moment explains the modern problem. Discovery isn't hard because options are scarce. It's hard because abundance assumes endless browsing. Scroll, sample, follow 20 shows, start none. Podcast apps reward collecting options, not making decisions, which quietly exhausts people before they listen. We didn't grow up with that structure. Radio had schedules. Television had guides. You tuned in at a time, not to an endless catalog. You didn't evaluate everything. You checked what fit tonight and accepted the limits without feeling behind or inefficient. Podcast apps removed structure but kept volume. So when people say they're lost, it's not confusion about technology. It's that the guiding question changed without announcement. The system moved, expectations stayed, and friction filled the gap quietly. The old question was simple, what's on right now? The new question is different, what fits this moment? Most apps never say that. They laid with charts, trends, editor picks, celebrity faces. Useful later, terrible at the start. Listening turns into shopping, and shopping is work. So here's the reset. Before opening the app, decide 3 things, not about the podcast, but about yourself. This happens outside the interface. That's important. It keeps the app from setting the agenda before you're ready. First, when will you actually listen? Morning coffee, commute, walk, chores, lying down at night. Each moment tolerates different energy and complexity. Skip this step and everything feels wrong, even good shows, because they're mismatched to the moment. Second, how do you want to feel during that time? Informed, light, curious, calm, entertained without being overloaded. Mood matters more than topic. A smart show at the wrong moment feels like homework. A simple one at the right moment feels perfect. Third, how much time do you really have? 10 minutes, 20, 40, not wishful time, real time. A great 40-minute episode is useless if you have 12 minutes and no plan to pause without losing momentum. Those 3 filters do most of the work. Time of day, desired mood, available length. With them, the app stops being a maze and becomes a menu. Now charts and lists help instead of overwhelm because you're scanning for a fit, not browsing everything. That's the map, simple and portable. 2 minutes of thinking before 10 minutes of listening. Podcasts aren't collectibles. They accompany moments, pick by moment instead of hype, and the noise drops fast. Suddenly, the aisle has labels again. Once you accept that the problem isn't podcasts but presentation, things ease up quickly. The apps aren't broken. They're built for browsing, not deciding. Charts, trends, celebrity faces, endless suggestions all assume you want to wander, which is fine for killing time, not listening with intent. That's why the first adjustment happens before the app even opens. You decide what kind of listening window you have. Morning coffee isn't a commute. A walk isn't folding laundry. Night listening isn't noon listening. Each moment tolerates different energy, complexity, and voices. Skip that step and even good shows feel wrong. They're mismatched to the moment. The podcast isn't failing. The pairing is. This single decision quietly removes most frustration before it has a chance to start doing damage to your patience. Next comes mood, which trips people up because topic feels important. It usually isn't. How you want to feel matters more. Informed, light, curious, calm, entertained without overload. The same show can feel perfect one time and unbearable another. That's why people say they can't get into podcasts. The content is fine, the mood match is off. Serious interviews work in the afternoon and collapse at night. Gentle shows fail at noon and shine before bed. Context decides enjoyment, not quality. Then there's time. Real time, not hopeful time. 10 minutes, 20, 40, honesty matters here. A great 40-minute episode is useless if you have 12 minutes and no pause plan. Short episodes aren't lesser. Long ones aren't superior. They're just different tools. Matching length to reality keeps listening from feeling like another unfinished task. Precision beats ambition. When time and format align, the episode ends cleanly instead of lingering in your head like something you forgot to finish later. Those three filters, when mood minutes, do most of the work. With them, the app stops feeling like a maze and starts feeling like a menu. You're not staring at everything, you're scanning for a fit. That's a different mental posture entirely. This is where editorial lists finally help. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts all curate collections. Without filters, they're noise. With filters, they're shortcuts. You don't need 10 subscriptions. You need one show that fits this moment right now. A simple rule helps: one pick per filter, one short news update for mornings, one calm voice for evenings, one longer show for walks or drives. That's not a library, it's a small shelf you'll actually reach for. There's permission built into this approach. If a show drones, it isn't personal failure. It isn't even bad, it's just wrong for now. If something puts you to sleep when you wanted energy, you found melatonin, close it and move on. That's the shift. Discovery stops being a project. You're not auditioning podcasts, you're matching moments. Open the app with intent, make one decision, press play and leave. Moment, mood, minutes, everything else is optional. Once you start using podcasts this way, something subtle happens. The apps stop feeling loud, not because they changed, but because you did. You're no longer entering them empty-handed, waiting to be impressed or overwhelmed. You're arriving with a plan, even if it's a small one. That alone flips the experience from reactive to deliberate. There's a temptation to think this kind of clarity belongs to people who grew up with apps, as if comfort with choice overload is generational. It isn't. What's really happening is that the tools kept updating, and many of us didn't update our approach. That gap is what feels like chaos. Close the gap, and the chaos fades fast. We've done this before, even if we don't label it that way. We learned how to manage inboxes when email stopped being novelty and became volume. The skill transferred quietly, without ceremony or applause. We learned which TV channels were worth checking and which ones weren't. We learned when to ignore the blinking VCR clock and when to finally set it. This is the same skill again, just applied to audio. The interface changed. The thinking didn't need to. The difference now is that the pressure is quieter. Nobody tells you you're doing podcasts wrong. You just feel vaguely behind, like there's a smarter way everyone else seems to know. That feeling isn't insight. It's friction, and friction signals misalignment, not failure. And friction is usually a sign that a system wants something different from you than what you actually want from it. When you narrow listening to moments instead of catalogs, that friction drops. Podcasts stop being something you keep up with and start fitting into your day naturally. Morning has its sound, evening has its sound, a walk has its sound. None of them need to impress you, they just need to fit. This also changes how much space podcasts take up in your head, which turns out to matter more than people admit. You stop feeling guilty about unfinished episodes. You stop feeling like you should be learning more, faster, better. A show that works for 10 minutes did its job. A show you turn off halfway through didn't fail. It just reached the end of its usefulness. There's a quiet confidence that comes with that shift. You're no longer chasing recommendations or scanning charts to see what you're missing. You're choosing, and choice, even small choice, restores a sense of control that modern apps quietly erode over time. It also brings back humor. When something drones, you can laugh and shut it off. When an episode feels oddly intense for folding laundry, you can shrug and switch. The stakes drop. Podcasts become companions again, not obligations or identity markers. This is where routine beats novelty. One or two familiar shows, a short cue set with intention, and the rest of the noise loses its pull. You're not rejecting the new, you're just not letting it set the agenda for your day. Old dogs don't chase trends, they walk alongside them, alert but unhurried. They take what's useful and leave the rest where it is. You're still learning, still adjusting, still very much in it. See you in the next move.